what you do. I smile.
Nyumba Upendo, Milwaukee. It just means I love you. Welcome to the Nyumba Upendo Show. You're listening to Kwaku Amawasi, better known as the Blacksmith on WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM. We just want to remind you, you can go to YouTube, to WNOV, or to Facebook and check us out live. But if you're listening to the radio, I just want to say, hey, you know what? It is a beautiful day outside. Jermaine, man, my prayers is with you right now, brother. I just want y'all to know, like, sometimes we watch like a football game and you see a quarterback get injured and he go back in and you just know what kind of heart, what kind of love and determination. I just want y'all to send some healing energy to my man, Jermaine, for just like muscling through this show. Big Carvey, mad props to you, man. I love what you do. Now, I can't get the show started before I do my P&Ps. And everybody said, well, what's that? That's prayers and permission. As in the tradition of our elders, it is customary that I get permission from an elder before I speak to the community. My mother has given me that permission. Not only is she giving me permission, but she's giving me a prayer to make sure that the things we say touch the people's hearts in a way that it needs to be touched, that the things that need to be said will resonate with them. With our fraternity, we have something that we call Brother, You're on My Mind. So every Wednesday, we're mandated to call 4 brothers to just say, hey, brother, you on my mind. How are you doing? Sometimes we wait till somebody's in distress or something is wrong. And so what we try to do is be proactive. And so I usually don't do this out loud on the radio, but I'm going to tell the people who my 4 brothers are. It's Brother Clark Lavelle. People who know him in Milwaukee. He was a principal at Hamilton for many, many years. He's one of the first men that taught me what it was to be a leader. The second one is Brother Rocky Coe. He was a lawyer. He taught me what it was to fight against injustice, not to be afraid to speak truth to power. The next is a man by the name of Orlando Rice. He's actually moved to Las Vegas now, but he was a firefighter here. But he taught me what it was like to be a good father, seeing him raise his girls. And then Brother Eddie Murphy, not that Eddie Murphy, not that Ed Murphy, but he taught me what it was to be a good husband. I just saw how he supported his wife in the community and all of the things that she did, and just did it with a smile, besides just being a strong man, but showing me what that was. So it's like I send love to those brothers. We also talk about an ancestor. And this person just dearly departed, Tito Jackson. And, most of the time people think about Michael, and how they were overshadowed, by him and whatnot like that. But being one of the older brothers, he really was one of the staples of that earlier group, playing the guitar, putting the riffs down and everything like that. And so what it must take to see your little brother, your little sister excel, but still love them and give different things. But you see how his children are. So it's just like, I think about people we never meet, but have a big impact on us. But then there's some other names that I like to say. That's Kendra Johnson, Gabriel Tay, Mackenzie Adams, Jamel Miles, Madison Whitsett, Jamari Terrell Williams, Seven Bridges, Ashanti Davis, Kevin Reese Jr., Carl Walker Hoover, Jaheim Herrera, Michael Martin, and Haley Gabrielson. Now, when we talk about Jermaine, he was 70, so still young, but you don't feel he was cheated out of life. But all those names I just gave you were children ages from 6 to 13, and they're no longer with us. And they're not with us because they died by suicide. And you say 6 to 13, what can make a person that young? Do they even understand what it is? Do they understand the finality? What type of pain were they going through for them to be able to do it? Well, that's what we're going to do on today's show. I know some people say, oh, I don't even know if I want to hold on to this. And suicide is a topic. Yes, suicide is a topic sometimes we don't want to talk about. But I said we talk about homicide all the time on the news. And so much that has become a regular, even though we don't want to deal with it. But then we can say, how do we prevent it? What do we do? It's the same with suicide. And this is a good time because this is what we call Suicide Prevention Month, the month of September. So you got Suicide Prevention Day, World Suicide Prevention Day on September 10th. The week, sometimes I hear from the 7th through the 13th, the 10th through the 16th, but just somewhere there's a week that you dedicate to it. So what we want to do is say, we're going to talk about it today because this is the month, but we want to do something that keeps the conversation going. So I'm joined today by our friends at the Medical College of Wisconsin. Got my brother Neil Davis. He's a program community coordinator, alumnus.
That's right. That's right.
Alumnus of John Marshall. Now, I got mad love. My cousin Bruce Freeman went there. Floyd Hurd went there,
Yes,
and our own beloved Keon. So, it's some great people that came out of Marshall High School. Then went on to matriculate to UW Milwaukee.
Yes, sir.
Hey, welcome to Nyumba Upendo.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. Then I want to make sure that I say, and I don't know if I should call her doctor or she just wants Sarah, because I know how that is.
Yeah.
Dr. Sara Kohlbeck. We got to make sure we give her accolades. But no, why I say this is because her education is spanned across the state of Wisconsin, going to Oshkosh, UW Milwaukee, and then on getting her doctorate at the Medical College of Wisconsin. She is currently the director for the Division of Suicide Prevention Comprehensive Injury Center.
That's right.
And also associate professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Medicine. And she is the inaugural holder. And that's just that's a great honor, because whenever somebody do first, they say, we got to get this one right because we setting this off. So this first person got to be able to come with it. She's the inaugural holder of the Dr. and Mrs. Michael C. Kohlbeck Community-Based Suicide Prevention Research Professor. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, listen, I'm gonna tell you, I'm just really meeting them for the first time. But you say, well, why you have them on the show? You don't know who they are? I said, no, I know they're good for two reasons. One, I've seen the names in the community, but I reached out to Brother Reggie Moore, and I was like, hey, listen, man, this is Suicide Prevention Month. I want to talk about it. And he was like, what? I don't really do that. And I said, I do violence prevention, gun. I was like, what? They all roll under the same umbrella. And he's like, no, I got somebody special for you. So now you become the detective, you rolling up some stuff, and you see names, and you say, I knew it, but it's there. And when I saw you with my girl Venetia, I was like, oh yeah, then it's be like, oh, I said, okay, they really got it going on. No, but these are names, like you said, like we know from the community, and I know where their heart is at. So when we go there, so the first thing I want to ask you is this is not a field that people normally go into when we're talking about suicide. What, and I'm gonna ask you both, and you can answer in the order you want to. What pulled you to this area? Because it's not the common area to go into.
Sure, I'll begin. So I want to say, even back to my days at John Marshall High School.
All right.
In the mid-90s, I would always go to middle schools and high schools and have candid conversations. And so back in the 90s, it was a big emphasis on teen pregnancy prevention, as far as, just say no campaign, even extended from Nancy Reagan in the 80s.
That's it.
So with my two sons, when they were going to school, they would come home and tell me stories about their friends having suicidal ideation. I'm like, wait, they're only 11, 12, 13. What could they possibly be going through? I had no clue.
Come on.
And the more that they were in school, the more they would come home and tell the stories. Then I would go to the school and I would actually see it, and it blew me away. I'm like, the stresses that these young students have at such an early age. I'm thinking they'll have life experiences. Okay, they got a surprise quiz.
Yeah.
Okay, how tough is it? But started peeling the layers back. It was like, my goodness, these babies are going through so much. It didn't have a safe space. So I left the telecom world after 19 years, and COVID had a big thing to do with that, because we used to have more conversations as far as what can we do to help. And I think it's still a all hands on deck approach to trying to assist, not only what happened to COVID to our babies, but just being, like I said, creating a safe space for them to talk to an adult about this. So this is where I jumped in.
No. And Sarah, before you go in, I just want everybody, I hope it didn't zoom past you what Brother Neil said. He was like talking to my son, and he was telling me about these children having suicidal ideations. First thing, he was talking to his son. Not only was he talking, he was listening. And then after he listened, he investigated. He said, let me see some more. And I know you two are probably very familiar with the ACE study. So we talk about adverse childhood experiences. And that's that test. We talk about it often on this show. It's just a little 10-question test. But if you score 4 or more out of these 10 questions, they started to talk about how your life cycle kind of goes down from all the way from the friends that you make, the jobs you keep, to the choices you make, all of these different things. But one of the questions is about suicide in your household. And as those names we read off earlier, we saw those were 6 to 13. So please, parents, do not dismiss when a child is saying they're being bullied, when they're being ostracized for being different, the amount of pain that they're having. Even if they don't show you that crazy amount of pain, listen to your people. Sarah, I'm gonna bring it back to you now. What brought you to this
Before I
area?
answer that question, I just want to, you mentioned Reggie Moore before.
Yeah.
Reggie also has brought many wonderful things into my life, and Neil is one of those
Yeah.
people. When I had an open position on my team for a community program coordinator, he said, I've got somebody. He wants to work with kids. He wants to make a difference in his community. So, and that's Neil, and he's done that.
That's what's
so
up.
thank you. Yeah.
Shout outs to Reggie Moore.
Yes, sir.
So my work and my role and my interest in this space is very personal.
Yeah.
I have dealt with mental health challenges my entire life. And in my early 20s, I was sort of the first time that I experienced my own thoughts of suicide. But I never thought of it as something that's preventable. I always thought it was, just something that happens and we just sort of have to deal with it. And never really thought of it as being a preventable issue.
Yeah.
Fast forward many years to my early 30s, I was kind of at a place in my life where I was looking for a career change, and I discovered public health. And through my work in public health and through my own kind of living and life experience, really learned that suicide is something that can be prevented.
Yeah.
And really, again, kind of sparked my passion to learn more and to really be able to help other people. I had a suicide crisis just a few years back, working in this field. And one of the things that was the most difficult during that time was that having all of the knowledge that I have, all of the resources that I have access to, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so the work that I do is trying to open conversations about this topic, like you're doing, Kwaku, and to provide more information to folks in the community about not only how to support yourself, but how we can support each other, so that when somebody is in that really scary place of not knowing what to do, there are going to be resources out there.
And you know what? It's like, I love when we can talk about a situation of like, man, this affected me. It affected me personally, or it affected me secondarily, but it's just like, but it's also a public health. So it's not just because I want to fix me, but I was like, if I'm feeling like this, more people are probably feeling like this. A lot of people ask me, say, how did you get to work in with the Olympics? And I said, because there was a rash of suicides.
Yeah.
I said, the athletes was like, hey, we have the best of the best when it comes to medical care. We have the best of the best when it comes to all of the things that make us superior athletes. But we're struggling emotionally. And that's I think one of the myths where people think, well, if you have a lot of money or if you have this going on, you have this, that obviously that somehow there's no problems or whatnot. And because of the outlash from some of the athletes, they said, we're going to do something. And then we had some philanthropists, some people, some givers to say, we're going to invest some money into this. And they were able to build a staff over there. And so when I do that, what I want to do is do a little bit different than what most people do. I love in your part and your LinkedIn comment, you say, hey, I'm an educator, I'm a researcher, and I'm a servant to the community to give this. I want to talk to the people right now because you hit it on the head. You said, man, I do this all the time, but when I need it, I couldn't even pull these resources. So what are some of the things that you're doing right now to let everybody know? You might not know about these resources, but through our research, through our education, this is what we're giving back to the community.
Yeah, one of the things that we do is we have a podcast. I'd like to plug it on here if I could.
Oh, yeah.
It's called The S Word, a podcast about suicide prevention. It is available on Spotify and iTunes. It's on SoundCloud. And really, the one of the things that frustrates me, I think, about academia is that we have all of this knowledge and we don't make it accessible. And so that's really the goal of the podcast, is to take what we have learned about suicide and suicide prevention, bring in folks with lived experience, and make that information accessible, not only from like a material standpoint, but really from kind of a practical standpoint in the community. So we have monthly episodes where we talk about different topics related to suicide and suicide prevention, just again to help get the word out about these different resources. We also do quite a bit of tabling in the community. We actually this Saturday are going to be at the Walnut Way Harvest Festival, providing some information.
Hey, listen, don't go by that quickly. What time?
I think it's going to be, if I'm right, it's like 12:30 to 4. We'll be there. We will have resource sheets with all kinds of information. We've got some little cards that talk about, if you're concerned about somebody, here's what you can do. We might have some candy and some other little giveaways to bring folks to the table. But we really try to be out in the community as much as we can. We go to Pride Fest, we go to Juneteenth, we go to different events to really help make sure that, again, this information about resources that are out there are accessible, and to, again, normalize these conversations. Like, I've had people come up to tables that we've been at in the community like, oh, suicide, I don't want to talk to you about that, but we're there. Yeah. If you want to talk, come on over and we'll chat and give resources.
Look like you want to say something there?
Oh, well, no, I love the engagement. One of the things that I first learned is that when it comes to suicide, you're right. There's such a large stigma about it. We don't want to discuss it. But one of the things that we must do when somebody's going through suicidal ideation is come out and ask them. We're not going to be around the bush. We're not going to tiptoe around it. We're not going to dance around it. No, we're going to ask directly, hey, are you thinking about killing yourself? Yeah. Are you thinking about harming yourself? I'm right here next to you, and then create a plan to move forward. So, no, I love the engagement.
No, so I want to know, because one of the things that I also saw on your LinkedIn provider, it's like, oh, we teammates. Not only did we go to UWM together, but you see, I got on my mental health first aid. I'm a trainer for adults. I'm certified with youth and adults. But tell people a little bit about what you do with mental health first aid, because what you just said, we ask aggressively. That's the first step in the algae method.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm a mental health first aid trainer as well for adults. And we are working really hard at the Medical College of Wisconsin to get as many people trained on our staff and in our faculty, particularly leaders, to be able to identify potential mental health challenges in their staff and employees, because it is so important to one of the beautiful things that I learned in mental health first aid training is the term expert noticers. Yeah. We want to be an expert noticer. We don't have to diagnose, we don't have to treat, but we need to notice. And so we are trying to get the word out about that as much as we can. We do also do some trainings in the community, MATC and other places. I did a training down at, I can't remember the name of the union, but it was a constructors and builders union down on the south side. That was just amazing. I mean, thinking about construction workers who are thinking about suicide.
No. And when you think about it, that's one of the highest rates where you go. And so when people hear what's this mental health first aid, I want you to think of it like this. What CPR is to a non-medical personnel, how you can be like just that stopgap till the real help can come. That's what a mental health first aider is. And I love what Sarah said. You said, I'm an expert noticer. I might not be able to do too much about it, but if I can notice it, I can give a warm handoff to somebody else who might know. And I know we're probably coming up on a break. We got a couple of minutes, so I'm going to ask you this question with this right here. You're doing great research over there. Can you tell us about one of the projects that you have coming on?
Yeah, so we have several projects that we're working on right now, but we are starting a project actually just probably later this month, where we're going to be looking at kind of experiences of vicarious police violence and the impact that has on mental health of people here, specifically in our community.
So I want you to slow down right there, because when you say vicarious police trauma, I want you to tell the community exactly what that is.
Yeah, so that could be, something like witnessing, violent events, whether it's against somebody else or maybe even against yourself. That's not vicarious. I mean, that's direct. But really, just that sort of atmosphere of violence in the community and having to live with that on a day-to-day basis.
And so understand, this is why we talk about, I don't want to see this. This is trauma porn. It's like, I don't want to see this, because it affects you. You'd be like, I don't know this person, but Breonna Taylor, she felt like my sister. Trayvon Martin felt like my cousin. We listed all of the names, and just seeing it, you don't want to see it, because even though you didn't go through it exactly, you did go through it. And what I love about that is saying, hey, we want to look at this in so many different ways in which we do it. So what I want to do is I want to go back real quickly to just this, because we're going to go out to the break on these stats. In 2015, there was 44,000 suicides in the United States. That's 121 per day. And at that time, that's when the number was 22 veterans a day. So we think about the people who we healed as heroes and everything like that, the bravest of the brave. So don't think that suicide is for the emotionally weak or the fragile. These are the strongest of the strong. So let's break that myth. It's the 10th leading cause of death in the U.S. that year, the third leading cause of death from 10 to 14, and the second leading cause of death for 15 to 24-year-olds. But now let's jump up to 2022. There was 921 suicides in Wisconsin. 2021, it was 905. 2017, 926. Now, we said it was 921 in 2022, but it was 215 homicides. And think about how much attention we give to the homicides. And as Sarah said before, this is something that can be preventable. So if we will talk about it, not hide it under the rug. Sometimes we're embarrassed, we're ashamed for so many reasons, but it's harder to talk about it in the aftermath than if we could do it preventatively and maybe we can stop something. So I just want you to think about those numbers. 34% of those 2022 stats between the ages of 25 and 44. These are people who are in the physical prime, the emotional and mental prime. We talk about the brain doesn't develop till you're 25 with the prefrontal lobe, and that's the time where it starts to go. So what we got to start thinking about is this: how do we make it better, not only for ourselves, for our loved ones, but all those we treat? Hey, come back. We're going to keep talking about this topic, that S word, on Nyumba Upendo, WNOV 860 AM. Let's see you on the break. Kwaku Amawasi. Missing my host, Dr. Alicia Mutri. I know you're out there listening. Just wanted to say hello to you, let you know your presence is still felt here. I'm here with Neil and Sarah from the Medical College of Wisconsin, and we're talking about the topic that people say we can't talk about, but we're going to talk about it so much where you feel comfortable talking about it. And so, Sarah, I want you to just jump right in because people say, okay, you're talking about it, and I don't want to talk about it. How do I approach it? Like Neil said, we just say what it is. But for some people, they can't just say, you gonna kill yourself or you thinking about something. What's another way for a person who's just trying to get into this to say, this is a way you can kind of ask? Maybe it's by you see some warning signs and you say, I've seen this or whatnot, but you tell me what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a really difficult and it's a scary question to ask. So yeah, it can be challenging for people. So there are, warning signs that we can watch out for, that we can say, hey, I've noticed this, kind of what's going on.
Can you tell us some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say that, this is different for everybody. It doesn't look the same in every single person.
There's no cookie cutter, but if you see these things.
Right. And one of the things I always like to think about is, if something seems very different with a person or you just have that feeling in your gut, that's an opportunity
that's
and
the
a
first
chance
thing
to check in. Yeah. But there are things that we can look for, things like increasing substance use or alcohol use.
Self-medication.
Right.
That's a big one.
Yeah. People often do actually talk about thoughts of suicide as well. They might say things that kind of might seem like a joke, or they might post something on social media. But it's important to always take those things seriously. Oftentimes people will say things like, I feel like a burden, or there's no way out of a situation, kind of that hopelessness. You might also notice like increasing anger with people or increasing aggression. And I think it's really important to understand that for what it is, that is not always, it can often be about sort of that internal struggle. And so again, kind of looking for things like that. You might also notice somebody, not sleeping well or sleeping all the time, kind of that insomnia, or just, kind of drawing in or isolating themselves. So again, not a cookie cutter. Everyone's different, but looking for things that are out of the ordinary or things that just make you feel in your gut like something's wrong.
No, I'm hearing you, and it's just like those are the things where I know people are saying like, man, I heard that and I didn't even think to say something like that. And what I tell people, and you tell me, chime in if you say something, I try to remind people how they're loved, how they are valued, that you are cared about. I don't ever want to make anybody feel bad if they say, I do want to do that kind of shock value.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, do you see something different? Like when you talk with children, like you said, with your son and his friends, what are some of the things that you can tell like a young person to tell another young person, or tell a parent to tell their child?
Well, first, open communication is everything. So trying to listen without judgment is key. Even from my level to my son's level, when they're talking with their friends, no judgment. I tell my boys all the time, don't judge, just listen. Take in the information. What is their body posture? Because isn't like over 80% of our communication is nonverbal.
Nonverbal.
So, what are they talking about? What are they discussing? And then once again, where is that safe space where you can have these conversations? It was interesting that during COVID, somebody reached out to my son during the Google Meet. And a teacher actually reached out to me and said, hey, your son is cutting up in class. They're having a side conversation. And so I ain't putting anything past my son because he's a prankster, much like his dad. But I was like, let me see what you were talking about. And I saw the whole transcript. And I reached back out to the teacher and the principal. I said, you're chastising my son for this side conversation, but did you read the details of how this young lady says she's exhibiting these type of behaviors, trying to self-medicate in a healthy manners? That should be the priority. And come to find out, the teacher it was more comfortable for that teacher to talk about the behavioral aspect instead of talking about what was actually detailed in the transcript as far as the person having suicidal ideation. So it's a big thing.
So, and you make a good point. So you talk about we need to train the construction workers, we train the leadership, we need to train our teachers. I think sometimes we ask our teachers to do more than what they're capable of doing because they're not the expert noticers. They trying to get through this curriculum and whatnot like that. And I'm with you 100%. Okay, take the time to do this. But now what we got to do is say, open your eyes. So I go back to you, Sarah, be an expert noticer. Say, what are we noticing that we really should be noticing? That's an issue. But if there's a bigger issue, how do we get to that? Is there a certain demographic? Like it's just a certain person that you say is more likely to commit suicide, to die by suicide, excuse me.
Yeah, and this has changed a bit in recent years. Typically, when we think about the population that's we see suicide in the most, it's typically middle-aged white men, sort of nationally. We are seeing reductions in suicide in that group. And unfortunately, we're starting to see increases in suicidal behavior in young individuals of color, young Black and Hispanic or Latin individuals. And being in public health, my belief is a lot of that has to do with what's going on in our environment and our context. And so we need to think about suicide prevention differently. Suicide looks different in different groups. And so I think, again, we need to make sure that our prevention activities and what we're doing in the community for folks is different as well.
Yeah. Did you want to say something else?
Well, no, I love what she said. One of the things that I started to realize in this role is that even teaching basic life skills is suicide prevention.
Yes.
So what my role is I do next of kin interviews for those that have experienced a death by suicide in their family. So this year in Milwaukee County, there's 61. Last year for 2023, there was 117. Now, one of the things that we've been taught as well, or that we're finding out, is that every time that there's a suicide, there's a ripple effect.
Come on.
Where it touches about 135 people.
All right, see, on this show, if something that said we do an instant replay on WNOV. So I want you to hear that, because when you're thinking about this, you say, oh, that person's life was lost. When I worked in the prisons, we say, oh, if you go to prison, your family goes to prison. So you think about that. So give us that number again.
Yes, sir. So 2023, 117 suicides in Milwaukee County. Every suicide, one suicide, there's a ripple effect where it affects about 135 people. So for 2023, that's over 15,000 people. And I think that number is sometimes maybe higher than attendance at a Brewers game on Monday night. So when I say teaching these life skills, especially recently, like Sarah said, that there's been an uptick as far as people of color dying by suicide. And I want to say, like, for the last 2 months, a lot of the cases that I've been reviewing have to deal with life skills. For example, broken relationships. This relationship didn't work out. So therefore somebody, has a death by suicide. So we could talk about resilience all we want. We could talk about perseverance and things like that. But teaching those type of life skills to endure is what we definitely need to change.
When I think about, what you're saying, and I want to stay on this part for a minute, because you went by it and you're brilliant so quickly. It's like afterwards.
Yeah.
I want you to talk about, and listen, what we're going to do is we're going to open it up to the audience. I know sometimes this is a hard topic to talk about because as we talk about that ripple effect, maybe it didn't happen to you, to somebody in your immediate family, but you were part of that ripple effect. Or maybe you thought about it. You have something that you want to say, you think could be helpful. Phone lines are open to you at 414-444-5250 or 444-5253. So no, Milwaukee, you're open to chime in on this conversation. I want you to talk about when it first happens with the family, and you have to talk about the reality of what happened. What goes into that with you in your specific position?
So recently it's been disbelief.
Yeah.
They still don't understand.
It's real. This can't be. It's not. This didn't happen.
That didn't happen. Sometimes I spoke with the family last week and they said, you're calling, so that means this really occurred. I thought it was a bad dream.
Yeah.
Just sometimes they feel paralyzed emotionally.
Yeah.
Even physically. I've talked to parents where they say, we're not getting out of bed. We're not doing this. Even though life is going on, they still have to provide, they have to feed their children, things like that.
Yeah.
They're stuck in this moment of time where, hey, this person no longer exists. And I'm sure there were signs there and I missed it and I feel guilty. So it's a difficult process to go through. And sometimes to hear is very heart-wrenching.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Sometimes when I tell parents like this, my grandmother told me a long time ago, she said, the best way to heal yourself is to help others. But sometimes you got to recognize I can't help anybody. I just got to take care of myself. And laying in the bed can be proactive. Yeah. But there comes a time where maybe I do want to try to do something. And so we want you to think about what are some ways to go. We have a call, so we want to respect our caller. I'm going to let it go in, then we're going to pick up at where we're at. Caller, you're listening to Nyumba Upendo. You have a question or a comment?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr.
How you doing, brother JT?
You know it's me
Come
straight
on,
up.
man. It's all love. It's all love with you.
Hey, for real like that. And excuse me, since you said that, I'm gonna say this. You know, uh, uh, GK don't have anything on you, sir. But anything I want to say, I just saying you look like him, okay? So give me a break. But thank you for being there. What I
Yes, sir.
call to say, what I call to say, what you were saying uh, about the horrific things that go on in people's life
Mhm.
and how we deal with that, uh, by all means necessary, regardless where we raise up from, our environment, stuff like that, and what we hear on the news and stuff like that. The thing is, my question is, sir, my question is, which is a rhetorical question, but what can you do? Because, being a psychologist, a psychiatrist, when I came back home from the war, um, I had to deal with that too. And excuse me for saying that, but yes, I did serve in the war. So
Thank you for your
and
service.
and it was and thank you for yours. But what I'm trying to say is you've been very honest about what you're trying to say because whatever happened to us in the service happened to people on the streets.
Mhm.
When you have people live in a certain condition and stuff like that, trying to survive.
Mhm.
I mean, you can say this and that and another, but when they experience something, excuse me for being all over the map. I don't mean no disrespect, but my point is, and thank you for everybody for being there, doctors. But come on now. What can you do?
Mhm.
What can you say? And I appreciate y'all sharing that with
Mhm.
us. But if someone experienced something that they see with their eyes, right? Going to school, mind your own business, all of a sudden something go down, what can you tell to that person? I don't know. I may be, like I said, I'm all over the map, so
No, no,
people
no, no, no.
excuse me.
That's a
No,
perfect
no.
question. I'm
Yeah,
I'm I'm gonna
that's a
let them
beautiful.
get to it
Yeah.
first because I think what you said was just the realest question. Like, if I've gone through something deep,
Mhm.
what you gonna say? What
Right.
what what you gonna tell me to make today's scene better? Sarah, go ahead. I see you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love that question,
Thank
and
you,
thank
JT.
you. Yeah, thank you for
Well, thank you, thank you,
your
thank you.
vulnerability and your service. I one of the things, again, I'm going to go back to mental health first aid. One of the things that mental health first aid teaches is, you listen, you ask the question, and then you provide what's called hope with facts. And I think that's something that all of us can do. And what that can look like is, I'm here for you. I'm going to be here with you through this. I've got your back. And a lot of people that deal with challenges like this are able to get through it and fully recover. And so, one of the most powerful things that you can do for someone who is experiencing, whether it's suicidal thoughts or a mental health challenge, is just to listen. It can actually be a relief to somebody who is feeling this way for you to open up that door and ask the question and then just sit and listen. Um, and again, giving hope with facts. Just a simple, I'm going to be here for you. We're going to get through this. I can go with you to an appointment or whatever it needs to be. Um, you don't have to say anything, overly complicated or complex. But again, giving kind of that hope and then some information about what the person can do next, and maybe helping them connect with services, maybe helping them find a support group, that could be incredibly helpful.
Yeah. Now,
So first of all, thank you for the courage of calling in and asking that question. And I agree as well. So one of the things one of my church leaders, Bishop Walter Harvey,
ah,
challenged us a while ago when he
good
says
man.
somebody comes to you and they say, "Hey, I have an issue or a problem." Is this saying, "Okay, I hear you, I'll pray for you," then walk away?
Mm-mm.
Be proactive and pray for them right then, right there, right now. Same thing when it comes to a mental health crisis. If someone says, "Hey, I'm not feeling so good," they're isolating themselves. You see a total reverse in maybe behavior for what they're accustomed to doing. Now, yes, everyone goes through seasons. We understand
Mm.
that. But based off that relationship, go ahead, use your phone right there. Call 988. Say, "Hey, let's place this call together. I'll put it on speakerphone if you feel comfortable.
And go back to that. You said down 988. What happens if you down 988? What is that number to?
Right. So that's for a National Suicide Awareness Line. So you give them a call, you get a counselor online,
So
therapist.
it's open from 9 to 5.
I believe it's 24/7.
All right. Let them know. Let
Yes,
them know.
sir. Yes, sir. So it's 24/7. So call them, stay on the line. You can even text them now as well, saying that you need assistance and be there.
Yeah.
Being present. That's the most important thing.
You know, I want to make sure that this is very clear that these are my words now, that this is not Medical College of Wisconsin. This is not Neil or Sarah, because JT words hit me in my heart. And I always tell people, I said, when we talk about suicide, we look at it from a very Western standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I believe this is something that's preventable for those who want it to be prevented.
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody says something is going on, I think we should provide hope with facts. We should walk with them, give them their needs and everything like that. That is my life's mission to be able to do. But as I started to study other cultures and I started to study working with veterans,
Mm-hmm.
it was a couple of things that got me. And like, you know, you'll see a war movie where somebody gets shot and half of their body is gone. They'd be like, just give me the stuff, kill me. And they'll give a mercy kill.
Yeah.
So it's a suicide, but it's almost like a euthanasia with your pet. You look in some countries in Asia, you know, specifically in the Japanese community, when someone, and this was more in times of antiquity, but if somebody did something wrong, a way to regain their honor was to kill themselves, like to take that stigma off their family and to do it. And so you said, are you saying to do so? I said, no, please hear me 100%. If somebody is not feeling well or they're saying they want to do it, we do everything in our absolute power to let them know that they're loved, they are cared about. But I say this to the families who might stay afterwards. Sometimes it's not because they didn't love you or they didn't care about you. I said, we have a natural inclination as people for self-preservation. You touch a hot stove, woo, my hands jumping off. You get in a bathtub, it's too hot. I'm pulling my foot out.
Right.
So if somebody gets to the point where they're going to hurt themselves, you got to say, well, what else is going on with them? And so to JT's point, what I recognize is that I can't save everybody, but I don't know who I can save. So I'm going to try to save everybody.
Right.
And for those who's not, I'm not going to besmirch their memory. I'm not going to say they burning in hell. I'm not going to do any of those things. What I'm going to do is say, I'm hoping they in a better place. But for those sometimes where people say I'm calling for help, I want to make sure I'm their resource. And to your point, I try to tell people, like I told you where I started off with those 4 names, just I love you for no reason. You know, I care about you, because we never know what those words can do. And I think specifically, like when I talk with us, and I'm gonna ask you these two specifically, people think like because you work in this field, like you Teflon Don, like it can't work with you. What are some of the things you do from just a self-care, you know, those proactive things where people say, oh, I didn't even know about this. And these are the things that might get us to the point where we're never, you know, got to say, I have to do this.
Yeah. It can be challenging work. I think we have an amazing team that, you know, we are very real with each other. And we, you know, talk a lot about things that happen, whether it's just dropping in and saying, you know, I got to talk about this. I love to spend time with my family. I have 2 kids and a husband and a dog. And so I love to spend time with them. But then I also am a crafter. So I like to do my crafting for self-care. But it's important. I think, you know, in this work, particularly when we are, you know, really wanting to make sure that we're doing the best that we can for the community, it can be a lot. And so,
Before we go to Neil, I want to ask you something specifically, because I'm looking at your arms, and I told you I did some research, and you told the community it's something else you can do to help you. Why don't you talk about that beautiful artwork on your body?
Yeah. So I am a tattoo collector, and it is kind of a form of self-care for me. It's a form of expression. My tattoos mean something. This is my grandma and the little Rosie the Riveter outfit. What's really interesting is that when I'm in the tattoo artist chair, and often you're there for hours, is just having a conversation with them about.
It's like your barbershop, a beautician and whatnot,
exactly.
like that.
Exactly. And we just wrapped up a study where we talked to tattoo artists, and they told us, hey, you know, we would be interested in learning how to better support people because we're hearing these stories. And so, So
no, I love it. Neil, what do you do?
Well, I used to think that self care for men was a little bit different. I used to think that maybe we don't do it as much or we just keep it quiet. So actually being in this role now, I have the luxury of just going right across the street from the Thrive On building, the G's Clippers. Shout out
Ah.
to Eli the barber, my barber.
I grew up with G, so that's love. Seventh
Right,
and Melvina.
right.
So I love what he does in
S-
that barbershop in totality.
Yes, sir. So just being in the chair, then my barber just puts that towel on the face and lines up
Yeah.
my beard. That alone is
Get your
self
hair
care.
right.
Right, right, or lack of, you know.
Hey, I'm with you, brother. I'm with you.
So that reading,
Yeah.
yes, I'm over 4 years old, still play video games from time to
Yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah.
I
You
love
gotta
cooking.
beat your son in 2K. Let him know. I
Yeah,
know.
I gotta let them know who's the man of the house, right? Cooking, still trying to impress my wife with certain dishes after 19 years.
Come on.
So yeah, that's what helps for my self-care.
No, I love that because see, a lot of times we talk about this and it's like it can seem like it's so much weight. And one of the things when we first started studying suicide, they was like, they give you little things to say, but it was one thing. I was like, yeah, I'm not using that, I'm not using it. But then they said one thing and it just stuck with me. And it was like suicide. They said it's a permanent solution, probably for a temporary problem. And in working with the Olympics, also get a chance to work with the Paralympics. And so we have a lot of veterans. We talked about the person who wanted to die because like, oh, my life won't be the same. And you see people come back with one limb less, two limbs less. But then you see them dive into the Paralympics. I have more pleasure watching the Paralympics than the Olympics because you see the heart and the resilience of people who could have gave up, who make you. I saw a lady, so many people. I don't know, Jermaine, if you can swim. I can swim, but I'm not like the best swimmer. Is a lady from China. She had one arm, one leg on the same side, and she won. I don't know if it was the 50 or the 100. I saw a man with no arms, backstroking, looked like a dolphin. And so when I talk about like the resiliency of the mind, sometimes like we say, oh, I can't do this. Like, and that goes to JT question, what you gonna tell me? And it's like, sometimes I might not be able to experience what you're doing, but you might have been given this test to give the testimony. Maybe you were stronger than me, and that's why this unfortunately happened to you. But what can we do? What beauty can come from this? And when you see the resiliency, specifically when I talk with somebody who attempted and they got out of it, they become the biggest proponents. So I've been there. I've seen that. And let me tell you where I thought if you would have told me I'd be here 5 years later, I'd have laughed at you. But it's something about going. It always takes me back to my grandmother's statement. The best way to heal yourself is to help others. So, is that the music coming in, Jermaine? Oh man, we get to talking enough. And listen, we got a little bit more show left. So Neil and Sarah, they're gonna give us some more tips, they're gonna give us some more help. More importantly, they're gonna give us some more love on the other end as we start to wind down the show. But you're listening to Nyumba Upendo on WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM. We'll see you in a few minutes. Nyumba Upendo, Milwaukee.
from afar. The truth is the only thing worth holding on to anymore. Untie me, let me loose from the cord. I'm so gone, so far. I deserve more. Yeah, I'm begging you.
Nyumba Upendo, Milwaukee. Welcome back. You're listening to WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM. Kwaku Amawasi, better known as the blacksmith with Nyumba Upendo. And we've been talking about a subject, and hopefully you feel a little bit better about it. Because like we said, hey, you don't got to be afraid of it. I tell everybody, whatever thing is a giant in your life, confront it. And then it doesn't seem as big anymore. And once it's not as big, it's easily beatable. So what are some of the things, like obviously we're kind of closing down, but what are some of the things you say, listen, maybe I didn't have a chance to say this. I want to tell you why I said this. And I just want to reiterate this point.
Yeah, one of the really great resources that I want to highlight that Neil talked about 988, which is an amazing resource. It's the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. I also want to highlight a resource that's called a warm line, which is a little bit different than a crisis line. A warm line is a resource. It's a place you can call that's staffed by people that have their own lived experience of mental health challenges. And they're really just there to listen. There's a new resource in Wisconsin called Uplift WI. That is a warm line that's now available statewide that you can call. And the number is 534-202-5438. They are available noon to midnight every day of the week. And I believe they are looking to expand to 24/7 soon. So keep that in mind.
So who is that we can talk to make sure it expands? Is that your legislators?
That is your legislators.
So y'all talking about November 5th. It's a lot more that needs to be
Yes.
talked about, but that's beautiful. The warm line, you said call Uplift WI at 534-202-5438, and they're open from 12 to 12.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just stuck in awe as far as appreciation
Yeah.
for even having the courage to discuss this topic. Like I said, reading the reports that I read every day, they're difficult.
Yeah.
They're difficult to even try to put yourself in the person's shoes and walk through steps as far as what occurred, how occurred. So, no, I just want to continue sharing these resources. And then if I may be so bold to offer a challenge
Please, come on.
to the community, if I could be a little bit bold.
It's our call to action. Listen closely.
Let's try to look at life from an area of thankfulness. And what I mean by that is, yes, we all have certain deficits. Maybe, when you brought up the Paralympics.
Yeah, Paralympics.
Thank you. That challenged me because when I wake up in the morning now, I wake up and before I get out of bed, I'm like, okay, I can feel my fingers, I can feel my toes. I'm appreciative. The sun is out. And it's mid-September and it's 80 plus degrees. I'm appreciative. Now we could talk about the things that we don't have all we want. I don't have this food or that food, the ones that I want, but I have food, right? I have the ability to do certain things. So I'll just, as far as teaching these and discussing these life skills, changing perspective, once again, to show more appreciation, I think that will help out.
Listen, what can I say? Okay. Hey, we got a caller. We only got 60 seconds. I hate to put you on a time limit, but Al Sharpton coming on one way or the other. But we got 60 seconds for you. Please speak your heart.
So my name is Patrice Green, and I'm the owner of Calm Wellness Services. I just want to thank you all for having this conversation today. It's near to my heart. I am a overcomer of suicide myself. And I love the fact that this platform is being addressed. And I just want to thank you for your time today.
Hey, listen, I'm going to tell you, when we talk about self-care, this is one of my self-care people. This is my massage therapist. And I love her to death. Hey, yeah, you need to go see her, Jermaine.
Patrice, I'm coming to see you.
Come see me.
We talk about like the main ingredient when somebody cooks is love. Like even like who you talk to, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a masseuse, whether it's the radio person, you can feel when there's love in the room. And I think not to sound corny or cheesy, but I just think love is the answer to so many of our questions, because the love, this is what's going to make you do the extra things. It's going to make you listen intently. It's going to make you do the things where you say, I don't know if I want to do this. It's going to make you do those things. But if you can have love for others, sort of like what Neil said, make sure you have that same love for yourself. So many times we're so busy giving to others. I just want to encourage you to love on yourself. Whatever you've been saying you were going to do for you, don't wait for tomorrow. Sometimes those things aren't even promised. So what we want to do is just to make sure, as we talk about this, it was not to be sad. It was not to be able to bring anything in your mind that might be hurtful from in the past, but about how can we take advantage of the present moment right now. And by taking advantage of the present, how can that lend us to having a better future? Sarah, Neil, I want you to give 30 seconds, that final word, that final gem people are going to be able to take with them everywhere.
Yeah. I'll say you're not alone. And I will also say we all can do something about this. Just ask and care about each other.
I say the same thing. Be proactive. I want to say how old I am by saying being about it. You know what? We need to have these discussions. Let's continue to have them, man. Let's heal together.
Hey, listen, I'm glad Patricia called, because she has sent me something today. I'm going to tell you, this is just how stuff works. She said, hey, I don't know what you're going to be doing for your show and stuff, but I want you to do something. And so over at her spot at Calm Wellness, they're going to be doing something. I think it's in October. So Patricia, I'm going to make sure I put all of that on the air. It's an assisted training, applied suicide intervention skills training by James Austin on October 12th and 13th over at Calm Wellness. It's over by the popcorn spot. Okay, no, that's her. I got you, Patrice. We're going to talk again. But listen, Milwaukee, I just want to let you know, hey, I love you. And if this show meant something to you, make sure you call 5 people, 10 people to tell them I love you, even if it's just a text. Say, hey, you never know what that text at that time might mean. And we just want you to know that we love you. We care about you. And I'm going to end, as I always end, with my Mama Daisy words. The best way to heal yourself is to help others. We'll see you next week. Nyumba Upendo, Milwaukee.
You're all I need, all of me on my knees. Normally, harmony, bumblebee, hummingbird. I'm a nerd, study you. What do you, WWF? We fighting, we might need counseling, possibly more so me. Sounds to me, frowns will be grounds to leave. Hounds will be looking for you before you drop a tear. I pray them stop pretending that I ain't him, I ain't them. Them some dumpling I remember when you start dying. Them silver hairs and start hiding from your age. I ask why, how come? Amazing how time can run away from us. I'm no nun, you're no priest, but I promise, hun, you gon' see a phenomenon. Come with me like it's Ramadan. I don't eat like it's Comic-Con. I'm a freak for you, yeah. I'm begging now, pretty please, with cherries on top. Harry wet, white Harriet tub, man, don't give up. And if your gut tells you to strut, then I'll hail you a car. But what man won't beg? You know I'm nutmeg. I will show up on a little moped with a little puppet. It'll be fluffy. You will untough and we can discuss it. You know I'm suffering. I don't miss my friend. I don't like my fan bent up. Silicon well, that's illiform. Sweet stuff. Willabong, push stuck. Billabong, leaks that minimum. We gon' get along. Peace and intercom. Jesus, been along. T-I-M-E. I'm pleased. I'm feeling dumb. Please, I'm feeling dumb. Please, I'm feeling dumb.